You've seen those rallies all over our newscasts with more than 100 teachers planning to demonstrate in Puyallup today, for example.
We've got dozens of districts around the state still negotiating their contract. Others, like in Bellevue, Edmonds, Bainbridge Island, those teachers have gotten pay raises between 12 and 21%, while others are still fighting for those pay raises. We're joined this morning by Chris Reykdal, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, to talk a little bit more about this. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
So let's talk about the pay raises. When you're talking about double digits, that's coming from the McCleary decision. There's a lot of state money coming into state funding right now. Give us people a little bit of background about where this money's coming from and how much are we talking?
Yeah, so as you know, our legislature's grappled for many years on trying to provide adequate funding for our school system, including compensation for educators. They essentially wrapped up that work this last year with a last sort of $1 billion push that satisfied the court. Now that money's out there in the hands of school districts, and they're negotiating district by district what that looks like. And of course, the challenge is that the new formulas definitely have some districts significantly better off, and you're seeing those large pay raises being negotiated. Other districts didn't fare as well, so they'll have a little harder time. But it's a unique time in our state because they're all out there bargaining essentially at the same time, and that's a little unusual for us.
Right, so 74% of all school districts have some sort of a contract negotiation in process. That's really high. And we've gotten the money now. Mukilteo Edmonds, for example, they've got double-digit teacher raises. Others say the 3.1%, and the districts say we can't go higher than that. So who's right here?
Well, everyone's sincere. That's the powerful part about this. Your local education association is, looking after their membership and trying to follow the intent of the legislature, which is to increase compensation. Districts are also right in that whatever they do this year, they have to sustain that in the long term. So right now they're getting new state money, but come January, most districts around the state will lose a significant portion of their local school levy. And so districts are trying to balance, how do we give these appropriate raises now and still make sure this is sustainable a couple years down the road?
So how do you satisfy both sides in the situation? What can you do as the state superintendent to intervene at all?
Well, we can clarify the rules. And so part of our role right now is to make really clear to districts, you're not likely limited by the 3.1%. That is one of the benchmarks that the legislature allows. They allow a lot of things to be negotiated for additional pay. So making sure we're not artificially pointing to that necessarily as a limit. On the other hand, we remind districts they have a requirement to send us a 4-year budget plan. Our office now has to review their levies going forward before they go to voters. And we have this financial health indicator that we produce that says, hey, if we think this isn't sustainable, we're going to kind of put a red flag warning on that. So our job is to clarify the rules and get out of the way so that local bargaining happens the way it should, but make sure both sides truly understand the dynamic.
Obviously, Chris, the teacher pay is a huge focus point right now with schools getting started in just a couple weeks. What are the other issues that your office is dealing with as the school year gets underway?
Well, the finance issues are big, of course, implementing. There's obviously a ton of talk still about safety, school safety, and the legislature put a task force together around school safety, so those recommendations will come before this next legislative session, but after school starts. So there's a lot of attention around that, and we've just introduced new rules on school discipline, really trying to shrink the amount of time kids are kicked out of school, the fact that historically they were not given equal opportunity to engage in their learning while they were removed from school, and trying to reduce the racial disproportionality of that. So lots going on in public schools right now.
Right, and in Seattle and beyond, what can your office do about, say, the race and equity gap? Is that a topic of conversation too?
It's the whole reason we exist. The whole purpose here is to get every student graduated on time, and we know that if you're a student who doesn't speak English as your primary language, or you're low income, or you're a student of color in some cases, and definitely if you're a student with disabilities, you've not had the same graduation rate for a very long time. And so it's the entire talk of what we do, and tons of strategies, from a new accountability system to the new money that's going out there to some targeted resources. Very proud of the legislature and the governor for leading us to a better opportunity, and now we have to execute well.
What about the number of kids in public schools? We talk a lot in the news about how many people are moving to town and all these companies starting up here in Seattle and around Western Washington. That means more kids. And so in terms of school overcrowding, what are you seeing in terms of numbers?
Well, we're definitely growing. We're a state that's growing a lot, as you indicate, and Washington State's public schools keep growing. We're over 1 million students. 90 to 91% of all school-age kids attend public school in our state. We're a really strong public system. It's challenging because sometimes we grow disproportionately in one community over another, and so that's one of the real challenges. And we have class size reductions that are coming. So your kindergarten through 3rd grade classes will be coming down. By next year, that is a state law and a state mandate. finding those buildings in that space, particularly in urban areas like Seattle, is remarkably challenging right now.
Yeah, so you're saying things are on the up and up. We've been hearing so much about the doom and gloom of the budget, but you're thinking that things are on the up.
I'd rather be in Washington State than any other state in the country. We're growing our funding faster than anybody else. We're raising teacher pay faster. We're addressing equity issues, I think, probably not at the pace I'm comfortable with, but certainly faster than most other states. So it's a great state to be in public schools. It's just got its own challenges.
Always exciting to get back to school, you know, get the pencils, get everything. You're excited too, that's great.